Good morning. Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer. Savannah is on assignment. We start with that winter storm blowing across the central and eastern U.S. This morning, it's adding an extra level of chaos for commuters. Whiteout conditions are creating problems for drivers from Missouri to Maine. Parts of the Northeast got up to 10 inches of snow in the higher elevations. Well, in West Virginia, the icy roads caused this truck to lose control, hanging over the side of a bridge. The cab, with the driver still in it, dangling more than 100 feet in the air for 5 hours yesterday. Emergency crews were finally able to pull that driver to safety. In Pennsylvania, parts of Interstate 80 were shut down yesterday after a multi-car accident blocked the roadway. Similar story played out in Connecticut. This semi-truck rolled over, setting off a series of chain reaction crashes. One very busy tow truck driver blamed the storm's timing for the number of crashes.
Kind of came at a crummy time, everybody was already at work and then the snow came.
NBC meteorologist Angie Lastman will have your forecast. First, NBC's Aaron McLaughlin is in eastern Pennsylvania with the latest. Good morning, Aaron.
Hey there, Joe. Well, overnight, that storm crashed through the Northeast with up to 10 inches of snow in some places. And it caused chaos on the roads. Officials here in Pennsylvania fielded hundreds of calls about crashed out vehicles, trucks seen spinning out as far south as West Virginia, where first responders staged a daring rescue. According to reports, for up to 5 hours, a tractor trailer dangled precariously from a bridge, his load of bricks the only reason he didn't fall. The driver was finally rescued. And across the Northeast, snow plows were in overdrive as millions hunkered down. And this morning, they're digging out. That storm may be gone, but another Arctic blast is on the way with record lows in the forecast from the Midwest to New England by the end of the week. Joe.
All right. Thank you, Aaron. Let's get more on that winter storm and the latest forecast, bringing in Angie Lastman. Angie, good morning.
Hi there, Joe. Good morning to you. We indeed are seeing improved conditions across the Northeast and New England. Notice the storm is basically gone, but we do have a little bit of the snow that you're seeing farther back to the west across parts of the Great Lakes. We've got a clipper system that's going to slide through the Great Lakes in the Midwest here as we get through the day today. So those gusty winds and, of course, the snowfall going to be something that we're going to have to deal with, especially downwind of those lakes. Now, clipper system is a fast mover, so that's exactly what's going to happen. By the time we get into tomorrow, we'll get a bit more of that snow and kind of rain. Most of the snow focused up, of course, across parts of the Northeast, but then we'll see some of those showers and storms kind of ramp up along the Gulf Coast, and we will be concerned about some flooding. Downwind of the lakes, I mentioned, that's where you'll see those highest amounts of snowfall totals here as we get through tomorrow, and we could see up to 8 inches in some of these locations. I think a more widespread version would be 2 to 4 inches, but anyway, either way, additional snowfall across some of those spots that already picked up some snowfall earlier this week. Now, Rockefeller Christmas, of course, tree is going to be lit tonight, and a lot of folks are concerned about that clipper system and whether it will impact the lighting. And the good news is it doesn't arrive in time. So we are going to see quiet conditions overhead. This is great compared to what we dealt with yesterday in New York City, which was a whole lot of rain. So the clipper system not going to impact folks for the lighting of the tree, but boy, is it going to drop our temperatures on the backside of it. Here's a look at Friday morning. We are going to see more than a dozen record lows to be likely across a good chunk of the country, stretching from the Great Lakes into the Northeast. So here's a variety of them. Notice 7 degrees for Detroit in the morning tomorrow. You're going to feel like -1, -9 in Chicago. We've got just 11 degrees in Pittsburgh and feeling like 16 degrees in New York City for Friday morning. And then as we look ahead to later this weekend, we really keep the bitter cold kind of in place for most folks. We'll see maybe a fluctuation of a couple of degrees of improvement if you're looking for milder conditions, but it doesn't stick around. We've got 20s across the board Friday through Sunday in Green Bay. We've got 20s in Detroit on Friday, and then we end up into those upper 30s by Saturday and Sunday in New York City, but still feeling quite cold across those regions for the weekend. And speaking of the weekend, let's take a look at the big picture. By Friday, we'll see some flooding concerns across the southeast and that mountain snow across the Pacific Northwest. Otherwise, lots of sunshine to round out our work week for the middle of the country. And then we keep the bitter cold, as I mentioned, in place through the weekend. So the northern tier going to be quite chilly, single digit feels like temperatures. But that southern storm kind of sticks around across the southeast for folks there. So you'll still be dealing with the rain. And then that rain and snow will kind of work its way from the Pacific Northwest all the way into those northern Rockies, leaving us with a bit of unsettled weather for Saturday. Some of that rain sticks around for our friends out west, but we'll see mostly the light snow for folks across the Rockies, and then plenty of sunshine for the southern tier of the country, except for still a sliver of the southeast dealing with those rain showers. But plenty of sunshine, Joe, on Sunday for the Great Lakes, the Northeast, but the temperatures,
cold sunshine.
The temperatures might not make you want to go outside.
You won't feel the sun. You'll just experience the light of the sun.
From inside of your home,
exactly.
It will look really nice outside.
With the tree lighting tonight, as someone who likes to go to it every year, a reminder those folks standing down there are standing on the ice rink.
Joe and I learned this the hard way.
They do put a carpet over it, but wool socks. Wool socks are definitely going to be necessary tonight. All right, Angie, thank you so much.
You got it.
The Trump administration is doubling down on its defense over that controversial boat bombing in the Caribbean. This comes amid growing questions and scrutiny. This week, the White House confirmed that during an anti-smuggling operation in September, the military launched a second strike on a boat that originated in Venezuela. One U.S. official and a source familiar with the Pentagon's actions that day told NBC News the first of the two strikes left at least 2 survivors who were then killed in the follow-up attack. It is a move some lawmakers and legal experts say could amount to a war crime. Well, during a 2-hour cabinet meeting at the White House yesterday, President Trump and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth both claimed they did not know the details of what actually happened or that survivors were possibly targeted until later on.
I did not personally see survivors, but I stand because the thing was on fire. It was exploded and fire, smoke. You can't see anything. You got digital. This is called the fog of war.
Hegseth and the president seemed to deflect responsibility, pointing to the Navy admiral who led the mission. They maintain that he acted within his authority and the law. NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba joins me now with more on this. Monica, good morning. You were watching the cabinet meeting with us yesterday. We heard a little more about the Trump administration's timeline of events here. This is a story that continues to evolve. So what are some of the new details we're learning, at least from the White House's perspective, and how are lawmakers reacting to the latest?
Yeah, I'm still struck, Joe, by the fact that the president says he still wants more information on all of this and that he didn't necessarily know about the second strike or some of these other details that we have been discussing. It was new that Secretary Hegseth did admit that he watched the first strike, but then he left. He went about his day, and so he didn't see the subsequent strikes. But he has been really trying to defend and really say that he has the back of Admiral Bradley, who was the commander who ultimately ordered that second strike. So we're learning a little bit more about the timeline, but lawmakers are very concerned about some of this because they believe and they say that it doesn't square with what the Secretary and what the Defense Department said initially. Here's a sampling of how they reacted to the latest information.
Secretary Hegseth said he had no knowledge of this and it did not happen. It was fake news. It didn't happen. And then the next day from the podium at the White House are saying it did happen. So either he was lying to us on Sunday or he's incompetent and didn't know it had happened.
Ultimately, Hegseth trying to shift the blame to make Admiral Bradley the fall guy ought to be reason to ask for his resignation or fire him. He should be gone.
Now, Admiral Bradley, who is that commander who was involved, is set to meet with lawmakers. They are trying to schedule a behind-the-scenes classified briefing tomorrow where he will be meeting not just, as you saw there, with Democrats, but also with Republicans, lawmakers really on both sides of the aisle, pressing for a lot more information on these strikes.
And so, Monica, in Venezuela, the leader there, Nicolas Maduro, appears to be rejecting this pressure from the Trump administration to resign. He actually held a rally on Monday. He was seen dancing on stage, pledging absolute loyalty to his people. Clearly, there are a lot of eyes now on what the Trump administration is going to do next. I mean, what are they saying about the possibility of actually launching an attack within Venezuela?
Well, President Trump said yesterday that it's possible there could be attacks, quote, on land. That is something he's been teasing over the last couple of weeks, saying it's a possibility, saying that he has basically been presented with some options. But it was also notable, Joe, yesterday when he was asked about what about these other countries that could potentially be transferring drugs into the United States, allegedly, a country like Colombia, even, for instance, would they be subject to some kind of response? And the president didn't rule that out either. He did say that other countries could be, quote, subject to attack. not just Venezuela. So the idea that this could be expanding and there could be a larger response is also something that is still being considered. And we know that President Trump did have a phone call with Maduro in the last week or so, that we haven't gotten many more details about that, but that's significant in all of this as well.
And Monica, while we have you, I want to talk about something else President Trump said yesterday. He was asked about a fraud scandal in Minnesota. It was first reported by the New York Times. Federal prosecutors there say dozens of people with ties to the local Somali community were convicted for allegedly stealing millions of taxpayer dollars that were intended for social services. The president responded by lashing out at Minnesota Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, who fled civil war in Somalia as a child. He called her garbage and said that he doesn't want Somali immigrants in the country. Let's be clear. I'm from Minnesota. Somali immigrants have lived in Minnesota for many, many years. But now it sounds like the administration plans to crack down on immigration in the Twin Cities. What are we learning?
Yeah, we're learning from senior law enforcement officials that there is going to be an operation in the Twin Cities that will be similar to some of the other actions we've seen this administration take when it comes to these crackdowns on immigration. And according to one of these officials, they said that they will not be specifically targeting the Somali community, but that it's possible that some in that community could be wrapped up in some of these arrests if they are found to be violating immigration laws. But I think your point, Joe, overall about these comments that were incredibly offensive to that community and incredibly heated in rhetoric that we have heard from the president before overall when it comes to immigration. But that was very, very specific. We do have Congresswoman Omar responding. She said overnight that his obsession, quote, with me is creepy. I hope he gets the help he desperately needs.
All right, more to come there, Monica. Thank you so much. Staying in Washington, the suspect accused in a deadly attack on National Guardsmen has pleaded not guilty to first-degree murder and other charges. Rahman Allah Khanwal took part in a virtual court appearance from his hospital bed. He's still being treated for a gunshot wound he sustained during the confrontation. He's now being held without bond and is accused of shooting 2 members of the West Virginia National Guard the day before Thanksgiving while they were on patrol near the White House. 20-year-old Specialist Sarah Beckstrom died from her wounds. 24-year-old Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf remains in serious condition. NBC News legal affairs reporter Gary Grumbach is covering this story. He joins us now with the latest. Gary, good morning. So just walk us through what charges the suspect is facing here.
Yeah, the suspect was covered up to his neck in a hospital blanket as he appeared in court yesterday virtually. His voice appeared weak and strained as he spoke in Pashto through an interpreter on that video stream. And he said he did understand the 4 charges against him, which include first-degree premeditated murder, assault with intent to kill, and possession of a firearm during a crime of violence or dangerous offense. Now, Lachenwall is facing potentially life in prison because of these charges and because of his alleged actions that day, Joe.
So, Gary, in the course of the proceedings, the charging documents were released. They contain a lot of new information about what prosecutors say happened that day. What did we learn in those documents?
So because of where and when this incident took place, there is a lot of video footage, a lot of security footage of before, during, and after the incident. That's going to be crucial to investigators as they try to piece together exactly what happened here. But even the judge saying yesterday the government has a very strong case here, saying in part, quote, there's video footage of him waiting in broad daylight while armed, and then upon seeing a contingent of law enforcement officers, he went in their direction and he started shooting at them. That goes again to the strength of the government's case. Now, this is the Superior Court, the local case. Whether or not there will be federal charges is yet to be seen.
The suspect's next court appearance isn't until next month in January. The crimes we talked about earlier, fairly standard criminal charges, but is there, you mentioned this, any indication he could face federal terrorism-related charges or anything like that? And just on top of that, did we learn anything new about the defendant yesterday?
Yeah, he absolutely could face those federal charges. Certainly, U.S. Attorney Janine Pirro would like to see him facing those charges. It all depends in terms of timing on when he is well enough to get out of the hospital and appear before a federal judge. But what that federal crime will be does depend on the investigation, because there is no actual terrorism charge in the federal code, but certainly there are terrorism-related charges, something like making interstate threats, for example, if they find that perhaps on his electronics he did something like that. There's also a chance they make this crime eligible for the death penalty, something that hasn't been done in D.C. in almost 70 years. Joe?
All right. Gary, thank you so much. Republicans managed to hang on to a congressional seat in a deep red district yesterday. They won a special election in Tennessee that was getting national attention. Matt Van Epps, a former state official backed by President Trump, was victorious. This election was triggered by the resignation of former Representative Mark Green in July. Still, the results may be cause for concern for Republicans heading into next year's midterm elections. Just last year, President Trump carried that district by 22 points. This time around, with about 99% of the votes counted, Van Epps won by about 9 points. President Trump congratulated Van Epps on social media, calling the win, quote, another great night for the Republican Party.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.